Hi, I'm Father Michael Orsi. I'm your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which brings you the big G for the gospel of Jesus Christ and the little g, all the good things that people do to put that gospel of life into action. Hey, folks, today we're going to talk about American principles. You know, I thought I knew what they were. You know, I guess I would think of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, First Amendment freedoms, capitalism, the Bible, and yet it seems that a lot of those things that I thought were foundational principles have been eroding in our country ever since we've gone woke. So today, what we are going to do, we are going to talk about the American Principles Project. And our guest today is Terry Schilling. So Terry, welcome aboard.
Thanks so much for having me, Father Mike. I really appreciate being here.
Yeah, please tell us about this project of yours. I mean, was I missing in my monologue something about what the American principles are?
No, listen, to put it simply, we are a special interest group designed to protect and defend the American family, right? We, in this town of Washington, D.C., and all of our state capitals, there's all these big special interest groups. There's big pharma, big oil, big tobacco, big tech, but we want to make big family a thing. It's really tough for everyday families to navigate their state capitals and especially their national capital, and so we make it easy for them. We invest in campaigns and elections. We help get the good guys elected, the bad guys unelected, and then we leverage all of that into changing laws and policies to make America a more pro-family nation. And we've had incredible success, mostly fighting the left where they're most woke in terms of how they're trying to trans our kids and introduce really anti-human ideologies into their minds in schools and on social media. It's great. I've never had more fun in my life, and I really feel like we're doing the Lord's work.
You know, it's been my impression over these last several years that the attack on America is being leveraged by attacking the family, the nuclear family, mother, father, and children. And it seems to me that the enemy is doing a good job of undermining what we know to be God's plan regarding the human family. Now, you're a watchdog group, and tell me some of the things that you are watching, and that way we can understand better what you're all about.
Well, the number one focus that we have right now is on protecting children and parental rights, especially as it pertains to education. So there are three top threats to our children that we see, and threats to our parental rights. First is the advocacy and really pushing sex change procedures on minors, and even from the left, and even being willing to take away parental rights over their children in order to get these things done. There are states like California and Washington State and even Minnesota that have passed laws that criminalize being a parent. They criminalize parenthood because if your child is demanding a sex change and you don't support it, the state will come in and remove your children from the home and put them into foster care. So those are
at what age would they remove a child? So kid goes to kindergarten and says, hey, mom and dad, I was in school today and I decided that I don't want to be a boy anymore. I want to be a girl. And the parents say, like, you can't be that. You're a boy. And the kid goes and tells his guidance counselor, and then what happens?
Then they would bring in CPS and do an evaluation and consider removing the child from the home. There's no age limit on these new laws.
Any age. Hey, folks,
any age.
You know what this is? This is. I'm going to use an Italian word. This is pazzo, crazy. Okay, I got that off my chest. Okay.
I love it, Father. So they're doing this all over the country, and they pass this now in 3 states. They want to do it in even more states, but there's no age limit to it. They they believe that this, well, they don't believe it. I actually don't think they believe it, but they say that this is life-saving treatment, chopping off children's body parts, giving them cross-sex hormones, changing who they are as human beings. They say that they need to do this in order to avoid suicide, which you and I both know that this is an extremely first world problem. Kids in Africa, kids in Asia, kids all over the world are starving. They can't get enough food. And the last thing on their mind is getting a sex change procedure. But here in America, we're so wealthy. We have so much affluence that our children are so depressed that they'll commit suicide, apparently, if they can't get access to a sex change.
Yeah,
it's all preposterous, and
they're told to commit suicide if they don't get what they want. I mean, we have these influencers all over in the schools, on the internet, and they're telling them what to do. And they're telling them how to revenge themselves or avenge themselves on their parents who are telling them you can't do that. I've seen, unfortunately, I had to see some pictures of the mutilation that is perpetrated on these children, trying to change a boy into a girl into a boy. Folks, let me tell you something. It is revolting. It's revolting. If you have the stomach, just take a look at what these, in quotes, surgeries look like. They are brutal. They make Dr. Mangala look like he's a human being. Okay? What more can I say? All right, now.
No, I was just going to say, the interesting thing is that they claim to be transitioning these kids' as sex, but in reality, they're destroying it. They are erasing their defining sexual characteristics and everything about them. And so now they're just androgynous. Now they're eunuchs, essentially. And it's absolutely terrible. They are creating Frankenstein monsters here. And you're exactly right in your description of these procedures. They are horrific. They are monstrous, and they are destroying our young children. And it's incredible. The only argument that they've been able to make to justify these is the suicide argument. And once that argument, we have to defeat this argument and call it out everywhere we see it, because it's the only thing keeping it alive. If children's lives aren't in danger from not getting sex changes, then you'll never get them done. The only thing keeping this whole movement, this billion-dollar industry, I should say, it's a $2.1 billion sex reassignment industry in the United States alone. The only thing keeping that alive is this lie that people need it in order to keep from committing suicide. But we're also concerned about education, protecting our kids. Only 32% of fourth graders in America can read at grade level. And that's not according to me. That's according to the nation's report card, the National Assessment for Educational Progress report every year. 32%, Father. That means that 2/3 of our kids are essentially illiterate. So they're teaching them all this garbage, all this critical race theory and divisive racial curriculum. They're teaching this trans stuff, but they can't teach them how to read. It's absolutely criminal. It's being done on purpose. There's no explanation. I mean, we had an education system that was so good, and it was so simple. In the 1960s, we produced children, or men, that ended up getting us to the moon without calculators. They got us to the moon with our education system in the 1960s. Education is a very simple thing to get right, and it's a very difficult thing to screw up. And these teachers unions are doing their darndest to completely dismantle it. They want infantilized students. So we want parents to be able to control the medical decisions for their children and be able to protect their children from this gender ideology. But we also want them to be able to protect their children when it comes to education. But third is the issue of online pornography. We are working right now to pass age verification in all 50 states nationally, so that in order to access pornography, you have to upload a copy of your photo ID. A lot of people don't realize that we have online sports betting in several states now. And before you can even place a $5 bet on the Cubs to win the World Series, you have to upload your photo ID. You have to share your location with DraftKings or FanDuel. And there's all types of intrusions into your private life. So why are we doing this with gambling, but we're not doing it with online, violent, explicit, and obscene videos? It's inexplicable until you realize there's a real sexual agenda to destroy our children and even destroy our families. This is affecting married men
the big question
just as much
now,
as it is children.
Yeah, the pornography, it's vile, it's disgusting. child pornography is it's revolting. It's despicable. Okay, but why are there's so many people who don't see a problem with it and are trying to get it legitimized? I mean, I'm hearing things like they're doing away with the term pedophilia. Now it's attraction to minors. I mean, what is going on here? What's this all about?
Well, the progressive left, by their nature as progressives, what it means to be progressive is it means you want to progress beyond all boundaries, all barriers, all institutions, and all laws. They think that these rules against childhood sexual activity, every law on the book, they inhibit you. They keep you from true human flourishing. And so the reason that they're trying to normalize pedophilia and minors and adults having sex with each other is because they think those laws are harmful, that keeping children from sexual activity is actually more harmful to them than allowing them to have sex with adults. It's totally bonkers, but this is the stuff that's coming out of our university system. This is the stuff that's coming out of academia in America, and they really do believe that pedophilia is normal. They think they actually will say openly, children should be able to masturbate. Children should be taught to masturbate. Children are sexual from birth. Right. If you go to the architects of the sexual revolution in America, starting with Alfred Kinsey, you'll notice that they actually did promote and even study pedophiles. They promoted and studied childhood sexual abuse. There is a table, I think it's table 34. I might be getting that table wrong, but there's a whole chart and table where they studied the orgasms of infants. These are sick people. They're criminals.
Folks, there's a new one on me. I didn't know that infants had orgasms. I don't know. I thought like
well, they don't.
I think like they
don't.
See,
and actually,
they see their bottle, and I don't know. I don't.
No, these are sick people, and if you read the books and the writings around Judith Reisman, she was a doctor. I forget what state she's from, but she did a huge breakdown and expose on Alfred Kinsey and how criminal and evil this man was. They classified these things as orgasms, but the description of what they classified as an orgasm was screaming, was twitching, it was crying. It was a horror show. This was sexual torture of children, but these are the architects of the American sexual revolution. And so it's no wonder that it led us to the sexual mutilation of our kids and future generations. And ultimately what it'll end up in is the elimination and abolition of man, the abolition of humanity in itself. The sexual act is the thing that brings us closest to God in our ability to create new life. And that's why I think not only the left wants to destroy it, but ultimately the devil wants to destroy it.
Yeah, maybe a little bit off topic, but I'm sure it's something that you've had to at least discuss with your colleagues. There's a movie, Call to Freedom, with the, unfortunately, talking about displays of, children being used in the sex trade. And what a horrible thing. And it seems to be something that certainly it's been going on for ages, but it seems to me like it's been ignored. As a matter of fact, isn't it true that the movie had a hard time, 5 years it took to get the movie out into the theaters? What's going on there? What's that all about?
Well, if you've seen the movie, it is quite shocking, and it does take a toll on you as a human being, and it definitely weighs on your soul. It makes sense that this movie would be ignored because the only people that are able to really participate in this sex trafficking trade are the wealthiest of wealthy. They're the most powerful people in the country, in the world, not just the country, but the world. These are the most connected people. They're in Hollywood. They're in the mainstream media. They're in the university system. They're at the highest level of our courts. They're at they're in the White House. I mean, these people are everywhere, and they have the most money. They have the most power. They have the most influence, and so they're able to shut this stuff down. They don't want people understanding that there really is an enormous sex trafficking trade and industry around our children. And it's not just happening in poor countries where they're kidnapping these kids. It's happening right here in America. And sometimes in America, they're not even having to kidnap kids. Sometimes it's parents who are trafficking and prostituting their children out. It's absolutely monstrous. And it's going on right now. And no one wants to uncover it in the mainstream because these are the people that are participating in it. These are the people that work for the people that are participating in it. They can't. And so we need as much attention and focus on this issue because there's the most powerful of powerful people. Jeffrey Epstein was a billionaire and he had all of the most wealthy and powerful people in America going to his island, right? And that's just one island. I'd be willing to bet that there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of those islands.
I'll tell you, Terry, no names have ever been published. I mean, you got Epstein and his wife there, Ghislaine, I think that's what her name is, but no list has ever been published. And yet you get some people say there are logs from different flights that went there with certain names on there, but nobody says, hey, what about the folks that took advantage of Jeffrey Epstein and his fantasy island, whatever he had? I mean, folks, who's kidding whom here? Look, something stinks. The devil is in this, right? You know, the world, the flesh, and the devil, they all go together. But the devil is in this. Look, Terry, you talk about, American Principles Project. What do you guys do to say, okay, you highlight things, you maybe help to fight different legislation in the states? What do you do, like child sex trafficking? What do you do about it?
Yeah, well, we primarily invest in campaigns and elections, get new people elected, and then leverage that into policy changes and law changes. What we really need, Father, is we need an attorney general. We need a new president that will use the Department of Justice to crack down, and in many cases, using the military to shut these places down. You just need to enforce the law in a few key places, and you can shut a lot of this industry down. What's happening is it's not being enforced. The law is not being enforced. No one's going to jail over it. And so no one's afraid of getting caught. And so when no one's afraid of getting caught here, when they know that they have the dirt on everyone, they can get away with it. And they're not afraid of it. We are very close to all of this actually being mainstreamed and legalized if we don't stop it now. We need to start enforcing the laws against sexualizing minors and sexualizing children. This is why I think that so many people on the left today don't have a problem with sexualizing kids in schools. They don't have a problem with the radical nature of the new sex ed programs that our kids are being exposed to. They don't have a problem with pornography, literally pornography being provided to our children in libraries, in school libraries. They want children being sexualized at young ages so that they don't know that there's anything wrong going on. If you normalize childhood sexuality through pornography in schools, they're going to think that that type of activity is completely normal. They're not going to have a red flag. They're not going to even think to tip someone off that they're being abused or being hurt because that's what they've been exposed to and taught in school that is normal. And so we need to start enforcing normalcy when it comes to the sexualization of minors, which is no sexual activity at all and no exposure to pornotography. But we also need a Department of Justice that will actually go after these sex traffickers and shut them down. And we do, I think, in some cases, need to use the military to shut these people down. Wow. These are the most evil and powerful and wicked people the world has ever seen. And so you're going to need to meet that with an equal amount of force and power.
As you can imagine, producing this wonderful program, Action for Life, it costs a great deal of money. We're going to need your help. So if you would like to donate to keep this good news program on the air, please go to your computer, your cell phone, actionforlife.net. Hey gang, I know a lot of you sometimes can't watch all of our episodes of Action for Life. However, we have a solution for that. All you have to do is go to YouTube and search for Action for Life Florida. And you can catch up on all the shows, and guess what? Extra added bonus, you get to hear my weekly homily. So YouTube and you make a fine couple. Talk also about, you have a strong emphasis on the family, and the family is breaking down in our country. So when we talk about the nuclear family, in some places, in some circumstances, it's an oddity, mom and dad. If you break down the family, which is the basic building block of society, and the barrier, the first barrier, which should be to protect the children, if you don't have that, the children are at the mercy of these perverts. That's what, folks, they're perverts. And you have to ask yourself why. And to me, why? I think it is because they want to destroy America. They want to destroy Western civilization. It's as simple as that. Father O is no genius, but I see this one. And I'm telling you, we are in big trouble. We got to do something about it. So organizations like Terry's is extremely, extremely important. Okay, there's going to be, there is perversion being taught in the schools. There is a piece of legislation that is detrimental to the family. And you find out, well, who's the representative in the district? Who's running for state senate? Who is running for even a judgeship? So what do?
So we actually will go in, find out who the politicians that are trying to pass the bad laws or passing the bad laws, run campaign, develop and write campaign ads against them, contact all the voters in their district, the most persuadable ones, and we punish them. We unelect them and replace them with a pro-family candidate. And then once that pro-family candidate's in there, we help them draft new legislation to undo that law and to move the ball forward for the family. Then we come in and testify. We help put pressure on the other elected officials and the governor to get the law signed into law and passed. And then once that's through, we defend these guys. We keep them in office. It's a very simple formula, Father, that every other special interest group has followed. That's how Big Pharma got to be so powerful. It's how Big Tech got to be so powerful. These people all pass laws to protect their institutions. And the family movement has withdrawn from politics over the last few decades, and we are rebuilding the pro-family political movement. It's no wonder why the family is in such poor shape, as the pro-family movement, the pro-family political movement, that is, especially, has withdrawn from politics, campaigns, and elections, and public advocacy.
You will help folks. Grassroots. You'll go down there and say to the folks who call you up and say, hey, look, we got a problem here. This is what they're trying to do. And you'll go and you'll meet with them and say, okay, this is what we have to do. We will help you. We will represent you. We'll help you to get your message out. How do you do this?
It's very, very simple. It's a standard formula. You run campaign ads against the bad guys. You turn out more voters for the good guys, and you win elections. And then you change the law. It's a really very simple process. But we mostly, Father, there's so many. We started looking at school board races in the very beginning.
Oh, they're important. School board's important, folks.
They're incredibly important. But at the time, we decided not to fully engage in the school board elections because there's 13,000 school board seats. There's 93,000. I'm sorry. There's 13,000 school boards, and there's 93,000 school board seats, and that's a lot to manage. What we found out, Father, was that so much of the problems that are coming at the school board level are actually coming from the federal and state level, and so we decided to focus on governors, on U.S. senators, and on the presidency, because those positions of power have the ability to reverse a lot of this stuff. When a governor like Ron DeSantis comes in and says, you're not going to be able to teach little kindergartners about gender identity or sexual orientation, that actually has a huge impact. And so the most leverage that we found has been in helping support new governors and new presidents. There's also an organic nature to this, Father. Once politicians figure out that there's a special interest group like the American Principles Project that's spending millions of dollars every election, they all want to compete for that campaign support. And so once we started investing millions of dollars, we saw 22 states pass women's sports legislation to keep boys out. We saw 20 states pass legislation to ban gender mutilation surgeries for minors. And now we're up to 7 states that have protected minors from pornography online through meaningful age verification. It's a very simple formula, and it really works. And it's actually what the founders were, the founding fathers had actually designed the system so that everyday people could make a difference. And frankly, I'm no one special. I'm just the one with the stones, along with my team, to be able to, stand up to these bullies. They're bullies, and they've been pushing us around for far too long. And I just want to say, Father, they're not rocket scientists. This is not, the most difficult thing. They are pushing the most unpopular and evil agenda America has ever seen, right? If we could make John Kerry in 2004 lose the presidential election over his support for gay marriage, we can sure as heck guarantee that Joe Biden loses his reelection for president over sex changes for minors. America is not that far gone.
Hey, I'm so pleased to hear what you have to say. I mean, it's disgusting what's going on, but it's great that there's a group like yours, the American Principles Project, to protect us from this evil. There's an old Italian expression. Folks, I will translate it for you now into English. The fish stinks from the head down, so get the big guys on top out, and you will see that things will begin to change. Terry, I want to thank you. I sincerely hope that your project grows and grows and grows and gets the right people in office. Folks, Terry's for action, I'm for action, and I know you are too. We would like to thank our generous sponsors for their wonderful support. Thanks for watching. Please join us next time for Action for Life. I'm for action, and I hope you are too. I'm Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which talks about the gospel of Jesus Christ, the big G, and the little g, all the good things that people are doing to put the gospel of life into action. So please join us for the next episode of Action for Life.